Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating idea, mindful eating. We're going to unpack what it actually is, why everyone's talking about it, and how you can start using some of its core ideas in your own life, all based on what the actual science is telling us.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a question. Think for a second. When was your last meal? You probably know the time, more or less, but what about the meal itself? And now for the tricky part. What do you actually remember eating? I mean, can you really recall the flavors, the different textures, how you felt while you were eating? If it's all kind of fuzzy, hey, you are definitely not alone. It's just a classic side effect of living in our super fast-paced, screen-obsessed world. This whole experience, eating but not really being there for it, well, it has a name that researchers are taking a very close look at. They call it the mindless eating trap.
So what exactly is mindless eating? It's basically eating on autopilot. It's having your lunch while you're still banging out emails or crushing a bag of popcorn while you're glued to a movie. The research shows that when we're in that zone, we totally ignore what our bodies are trying to tell us about hunger and fullness. We end up relying on outside cues, like, oh, the plane is empty or the show is older, to tell us it's time to stop.
Right. So if that's the problem, what's the answer? This is where the whole concept of mindful eating comes in. Let's see how it offers a totally different and maybe healthier way of thinking about food.
At its heart, mindful eating is really just applying mindfulness to how we eat. And this definition from Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is a huge figure in bringing mindfulness into modern medicine, just nails it. It's not about strict diets or rules. It's simply about awareness. It's about being present with your food and doing it on purpose.
This slide really just lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows the huge contrast. We're talking about shifting from that automatic, distracted state on the left to being intentional and aware on the right. So instead of tuning out our body, we're learning to actually tune in to its cues. And here's the kicker. It helps replace those feelings of guilt we sometimes have around food with acceptance. It's about being non-judgmental.
Okay. This all sounds great in theory, right? But what does it actually look like when the rubber meets the road? How do we put mindfulness on the menu?
Well, there was this really cool study with teenagers in Washington, D.C. that broke it down into these 4 practical pillars. It starts with just thinking about where your food came from, then actually experiencing it with all your senses. Number 3 is a big one, consciously putting away distractions like your phone. And finally, relearning to listen to your body's own signals for hunger and fullness.
The big takeaway here is that this isn't about being perfect. Far from it. It's really just about building a deeper, more present connection with the whole act of eating, shifting our focus from just getting calories in to the full experience of nourishment.
But does any of this stuff actually work? Does it make a difference? Let's take a look at the evidence, because researchers have put mindful eating to the test in some pretty interesting real-world situations.
So we're going to look at 2 very different case studies. First, a program for employees in a super high-pressure corporate office in Dubai. And second, that after-school cooking program we just mentioned for kids in a DC food desert. I mean, you couldn't get 2 more different groups or environments.
So let's start with that DC study. The results were pretty striking. After going through the program, the students showed a measurable 12.3% bump in what the scientists call mindful attention. Basically, their ability to practice these mindful behaviors started to become more automatic, like a habit.
And this slide right here is where you see the real-world impact. When the researchers asked them, the students said they were actually using these skills outside the program. Look at this. 7 of them started thinking more about where their food comes from, and another 7 got better at noticing their own hunger cues. They were literally taking these lessons home with them.
All right, let's put these 2 studies head to head. In Dubai, the employees reported that mindful eating genuinely helped them handle stress and improve their focus. By shifting their attention from work anxiety to the simple act of eating, they were basically giving themselves a built-in mental break. Now, we already saw that the DC kids were applying these skills in their real lives, but, and this is important, we have to acknowledge that both studies were small. The hard numbers in Dubai weren't statistically significant, and the DC study had its own limitations, like how short it was. It just goes to show this is a super exciting field of research, but it's still pretty new.
So, after all that, what can we actually take away from this? How can we build our own little toolkit for mindful eating?
Based on the science, here are 5 simple things you can try. Just start by asking, where did this food come from? Then just pause for a second and notice the colors, the smells. Here's a challenge. Try putting your phone away for just the first few bites of your meal. Check in with your body. Are you hungry? Are you full? And maybe most importantly, be kind to yourself. Eat without judgment.
Of course, this isn't always easy, and the research points that out too. There are real barriers. Sometimes it's other people, our friends or family. It's definitely the objects around us, like our phones and TVs. It's our environment, where fast food is everywhere. And sometimes the biggest barrier is just us, our own old habits and beliefs about food. Just knowing what those barriers are is a huge first step.
And that really brings us to our final thought here. The research is starting to suggest that by bringing a little more intention and awareness to something we do every single day, eating, the effects can ripple out. It could influence our stress, our focus, all sorts of things. So the real question isn't just about changing how we eat, it's about what else in our lives might change when we do.